it wasn't like, again, I walk away from this and I'm not like, if just this one thing, it wasn't one thing. I don't think it was managing. The Blue Jays outplayed them for 4 games. They outplayed them all season, especially in their ballpark, which is why those games, first 2 games, were in Rogers Center. And I would find that very hard to swallow if I were the Yankees.
Well, Yankees fans, season's over. Comes in a disappointing fashion here at the end, losing to the Blue Jays 3-1 in the American League Division Series. This is the Pinstripe Post. I'm Ryan Sampson. That's our guy, Joel Sherman. Look, we're here to talk about what the heck happened in this postseason, what happened in this series, and then maybe talk a little bit about here what's going to happen in the offseason. But before anything else, as always, Joel Sherman, how you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get too personal. One of my oldest friends' mothers passed away, and I just came back from a funeral. If the Yankees had won last night, I was taking luggage to a funeral, and I was going to try to race to the airport and get there. Yeah, my backcourt mate on my first travel basketball team's mom uh, passed away today. So, yeah, didn't mean to bring everyone down, but been a long day. But happy to be with you, Ryan, and offer some level of maybe therapy for you and Yankee fans, as I know. I know what fans in. It's one of the reasons I enjoy doing this with you, Ryan, is I know what fans invest in every way to do this. And like I enjoy the journey. I enjoy talking about it. It's good at this moment not to be a fan and see if I could offer something along the way here.
No, look, we always appreciate you giving us your time, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not easy ever, but also at the same time, we know that you help give us like a really different perspective, I think, for what's going on with this team. And while we cover it every day and you cover it every day, it's just good to have this like I feel like this back and forth and like give me the fan perspective and from you from the writer perspective of like, hey, this is really what I see going on in the field and off the field as well. So look, the Yankees, and this is my read, and I wanted to get your reaction to this. My feel was they were lucky that they didn't get swept by the Blue Jays. I mean, they absolutely got killed and their asses beat games 1 and game 2. They weren't even in those games. I don't really take much solace in scoring all those runs in game 2. But if Aaron Judge doesn't hit one of the most insane home runs that I think I've ever seen in my life, which I still can't believe was a fair ball on a pitch that was well inside, that was 100 miles per hour almost, they get swept. And it just feels like, you know what? They are who we thought they were earlier this year in the midseason slump that they went through. And I understand they got right in September and they beat up on a lot of bad teams, and that you get credit for that 100% and 94 wins. But they did fall short of winning the division, and they did ultimately fall short of winning a championship, and they get beat by another division rival in the playoffs. So I'm left wondering, was this team really not as a championship level team as I had thought about here at the end?
All interesting, Ryan, and there's a lot there. If I was going to try to dissect some of this, first of all, I do think they were very much in game one, and that when Judge strikes out and they don't score any runs in this, I think what was it, the sixth inning or the
Yep.
fifth inning against Gosman, it's a 2-0 game. They get it to 2-1. And eventually the game gets away from them. But I thought they had a real shot to steal game one. If they had a big inning there, they didn't. Look, Ryan, there's so many different ways to look at this. I feel like this team is better than the team that won the American League Championship last year. I do. I think it's much better on defense. I think it's much more dangerous on the bases. It scored more runs and hit more homers than the team that had Juan Soto last year. And the pitching was as good as it was last year, kind of like very similar. It got to 94 wins again. A 95th win would have really helped so that
Mm.
they started this series at home. That might have changed the tenor some. On one hand, I could say like this series really pivots to me on Max Fried didn't pitch well, and that killed the Yankees in game two. As I was thinking about it driving home last night, I think I'm going to include this illusion in my column that I'm working on right now as soon as we're done with this, is the Yankees, to me, lost all the buckets. They lost as great as Judge played, Vladimir Guerrero played better. So they lost the star game. I thought Cam Schlittler really honored himself last night without being able to strike people out. He still figured a way. If Chisholm makes the play, he gets through 7 innings, 2 runs. And like, I think that speaks well for him in the present and the future that like he had to do it a completely different way than he did it against the Red Sox. And yet in the young pitching phenom game, Trey Yasevich outdid Cam Schlittler. And more than anything, the supporting cast of the Blue Jays, notably Ernie Clement, Dalton Varsho, Alejandro Kirk, outplayed badly the Yankees supporting cast. And then even include the Blue Jays won with a bullpen game, a total supporting cast game in game 4. So the Blue Jays kind of like 1-26 in all the buckets won this. I we were doing shows already last year, Ryan, is I thought the Yankees lost the World Series as much as the Dodgers won it. I just thought the Blue Jays won this series. Uh, and that there were ways maybe for the Yankees to get in it if Judge has a big hit or Rice or Stanton in that game 1 situation, if Fried pitches well in game 2, if Chisholm doesn't, but it's all ifs now. Like it was tough for them in this series. And the Blue Jays offense, which is 1,000 nicks and knacks, they beat them at the home run game and they beat them at the nick 'em. You saw it even last night. Again, I give Schlittler credit. They were making every at bat tough and that Schlittler stuck around. And partially also, Ryan, I know this is not the Yankee team that faltered in the midseason. I do think this, I thought the trade for McMahon was very helpful for them to become a better overall defensive team. I think they figured out the bullpen late and it really did get better without ever being well above average in some of their other bullpens. Like I just thought they were a better team than last year at the end. They got a cakewalk last year.
Yeah.
The Royals had a losing record if you took away their 12-1 against the White Sox, who lost 121 games. The Guardians didn't have any offense. They got a cakewalk to the Dodgers, and then the Dodgers stood up to them. And that's the commonality of the Aaron Judge and now more Aaron Boone era, which is if the other team stands up, the Yankees kind of wilt at this time of year. And I'm not exactly sure of why, because I don't like again, there are some series where you and I in games during the year for the last 2 years will go, I think Boone messed up here, or feels obvious to me. This didn't feel like a manager series.
No.
The star of the Yankees played as well as he could. Uh, the Blue Jays outplayed them, and I don't know what that means. And I'm thinking about it a lot because then literally the next column I'm working on is what to do next. And I'm not sure what to say, what to do next when I think the team is generally on the right track, which is, what's amazing, Ryan, about how quirky and quick our game could change is if Chisholm converts the double play, which of course he should, and the Yankees rally to win 3-2. I think you could have made a case that the Yankees won because of their defense. Bellinger made a brilliant play.
Yeah, he did.
McMahon made a brilliant play. Like was really good. I thought Volpe made a couple of good plays early before all the strikeouts got in his head and he started to like fumble around with the ball a little bit late. And so I know the Buck Martinez thing took off and the Yankees are imprinted with bad fundamental team. But they got so much better on defense as the season went along. And then it was interesting that a player I'm sure we're going to talk about, who we've talked about a lot, in Chisholm, makes the key defensive mistake of their season to kind of like finish them off for sure. Because I'm not certain if that game doesn't stay 2-1 that the Yankees don't win. Like I think Jeff Hoffman is in a completely different situation trying to protect a 1-run lead at Yankee Stadium than he was protecting a 3, 4, 5-run lead. So the Blue Jays beat them, and I don't know. And so the question is like, is there something internally wrong with the team
That's
where
what I
every
touch
time
on.
where every time the other team stands up at this time of year, they fall down? Maybe, but like, is that really the maybe it's the manager. I'm not here to argue it's not. Like maybe it's the manager. Is it Judge? I don't know. Like Judge seems like a tough minded guy. I'm positive Giancarlo Stanton, who didn't kind of get the average that the way he hit the ball this postseason, which was hard, should get. I know he's not mentally fragile. I I don't I don't know exactly how to apply it, and but I can't dismiss it
Yeah.
because they get eliminated in the same way all the
All
time
the
now.
time. It's the hitting not coming through for you in the postseason. And I do want to ask you. So this is where I think it might be an organizational issue. Maybe it's coming from Cashman and his philosophy with his analytics people and how they view the game and how to attack the game. Because I do think there were certain things that the Blue Jays were better at. Obviously, fundamentally, at the plate, hitting the ball in terms of a lot of contact, making you pay on any ball that was close to the zone. I ask you and put an example, for Vlad. He's up in the first inning. He's been killing you all series. There's a runner on second. You're up 0-2 in the count if you're Cam Schlittler. He thinks he's throwing a cutter outside, and Vlad loves that pitch, and he's going to go opposite way with it. So I guess my question is, why are you calling that pitch in that situation 0-2 when you know what Vlad's been doing to you, and why are you even bother pitching him with the base open? So I like there's an organizational thing I think there, because I think it's a philosophy of how
Yeah,
they.
I don't know. Yeah, that feels like an organizational thing. Is like, I mean, he threw a bad 0-2 pitch. Like it should have been even another 2 inches outside to get the fish. I mean, he did get to 0-2 on him. I'm thinking he's trying to establish, imagine the tone of the place. He's got him 0-2 if he strikes out Vlad in the first,
I
which
hear
is
you.
what I'm sure he's thinking. The Blue Jays, we're gonna have a real reckoning this postseason if the Blue Jays and or Brewers get to the World Series, right? So just very quickly, Blue Jays profile. Uh, Number one batting average, number one for fewest strikeouts, number one for defensive runs, for fielding runs saved. Uh, the Brewers, number two in batting average, number five in fewest strikeouts, number three in defensive run, and again, fielding runs saved on Baseball Savant. So, like, that's the profile of these two teams. And I think there's going to be some reckoning of it. And I think there is. I think the sport is moving towards more athleticism, more thought about defense. And by the way, I think the Yankees moved in that direction in a strong way this year. It's hard to turn the Titanic completely around, but I thought that they moved more into that area this year to a positive outcome as the season went along. They really did become much sharper on defense. And Ryan, I dare say nobody in like mainstream job killed them for the way their technical play for a year and a half, 2 years more than I did. It got better.
Yeah.
I don't know that their base running was heady, but it was threatening. Like Caballero was threatening, Jazz was threatening. They were a better base. Like I'll always use a guy like Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt isn't fast, but if he should go first to third, he goes first to third. Ryan McMahon, if he should go first to third, goes first to third. Like they were better at some things as the season went along this year. And so I know that it's going to be analytics and stuff like that, but the version of the team is that it's hard to shift it completely around. They strike out a
A
lot,
lot.
and they strike out a lot at this time of year.
Yep.
And so the reckoning also becomes, I mean, do we want to do this now? Do we want to kind of project ahead a little
Well,
bit, or you want to stick with
I,
this
I
before I
do.
do?
I want to stick with the series because, and this is the thing
Because I think part of the answer to your question to me is about the reckoning.
right.
But let's hold off
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Hold off on it for a second
But
because
I'm not running away from that. I think the game is moving towards a certain thing, but also the reality that the average fastball in this postseason is 96 miles per hour. The movement profiles have never been better. Like there's going to be a lot of strikeouts, and um, I like. Yeah, I have a feeling some of the other things I want to say are going to come up from some of your thoughts. So go. Why don't you go ahead?
yeah. So what I wanted to ask too is that look, I think Schneider and the Blue Jays put a good game plan together against this Yankees team in terms of their roster and the bullpen, and they loaded it up with all their lefties and decided to go against bringing the Barrios and the Scherzers, even if they weren't healthy, but they didn't carry those extra starting pitchers. They wanted more lefties. And the Yankees lineup and the roster, as it's constructed, you want your lefties in the lineup because you have the short porch when you're home, but also at the same time, like, they have a lot of righties they're throwing at you, but when you get to the bullpen, you'll take your chances. It made a very easy lane, it feels like, for Schneider on the bottom of that order to go through when you have the Chisholm, Wells, and McMahon in that lineup with Volpe mixed up in there, who was one of the worst players I've ever seen in a postseason series. It kills you. And I feel like that really hurt them big time here. And I wonder, organizationally wise, structure wise, or even manager wise, should he have been more careful with going with the righties, even if you're going righty on righty, because of how much they're going to be throwing the lefties in that lane?
Yeah, I think that's tough. Ryan, a lot of this is the Yankees left-hand hitters did a ton of damage against lefty pitching this year. And, it was not that long ago that everybody was screaming that Rice has to play instead of Goldschmidt. Rice had a first round that was really good and an end of the season that was really good. Look, let me say something big picture, because again, I think some of this is justifiable. This is not a criticism, but it's nitpicky because I think even you at the beginning of this said the Blue Jays destroyed them.
They did.
So I'm not sure that there's like a, hey, if there was a better 0-2 pitch or if they used Caballero here or stuff like that. Like, I don't feel it was that like close where like one thing went away. I'm not alibiing for the Yankees. I want to repeat that. I am not alibiing for the Yankees. At some point during this reign, they needed to cash in a chip, right? And who they keep losing to, they're now have been eliminated by 3 of the teams in their division 4 times in this period. Twice by Boston, Tampa, Toronto. 3 times by Houston, once by the Dodgers. That's this period. Again, when they get to that kind of team, they crumble, and it's on their permanent record. And they needed to cash one of these in. As random as it could be, like one of these years, it's got to be your year. And by the way, this year, Boone said he had his best team going into this. Healthiest, most well-rounded, and I actually think that's probably right. Having said that, one of the touchstones that happens at this time of year is, what would George Steinbrenner do? And I always caution people, from 1982 to 1994, for 13 seasons, the Yankees didn't make the playoffs when George Steinbrenner was the owner, and he was Aaron Boone plus Brian Cashman times something despised in New York. Okay, like you're young. Most of the people who are probably watching this are young. He was hated. He was a guy who didn't know how to put a roster together. He needed to get suspended and go away so Stick Michael could build a championship team. So that's partially like a long period of time without a championship, without even making the playoffs with all the advantages the Yankees of that era had.
But the alibi you were about to say here is the Yankees continue to make the playoffs, right? And they put together 94.
No.
Oh,
I'm not alibi, because I'm saying that I'm just trying to point out how hard this is.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I know there's a lot of criticism. People, I'm not a memes guy. Like, I don't look at things like somebody would have to send something to me. And I got some stuff about like Jeter and A-Rod beating up on the Yankees last night. And I get it. Like, A-Rod got some stuff. He didn't like how it ended with the Yankees. I'm sure he's no fan of Brian Cashman. It's a good moment to come out of the woodwork. Alex Rodriguez played on all great Yankee teams. They won one time while he was here. Jeter had a great beginning. His last 14 teams, one championship in the last 14 years of Jeter's tenure with the Yankees. They're great players. Those were really spectacular teams. It is hard to cash the chip. It is hard. Look at these Phillies. I would say that this is a great era for the Phillies. If the Dodgers win one of the next 2 games, the Phillies get eliminated in the division series, it will be up to like 5 years of the Bryce Harper era where they haven't won. I do think that there is somewhat of a lack of appreciation for how hard it is to get to the finish line, while saying at some point you must get to the finish line. And that when next season begins in April, Aaron Judge is 34. Cole is 35. Stanton is 36. Those are the people most of the face of this on-field product. And it's getting close to having used it all up without winning. I appreciate I appreciate how hard it is to win, and I think there should be some better appreciation of it, while also saying at some point you got to cash in the chip. Like this is, I think I used the term last week with you on the show, Ryan, which was there's fair and there's sports fair,
Mm,
right? Like we wouldn't want to make your job just about like whatever sweep weeks is. Like, hey, Ryan had a bad sweep weeks, fire his ass. Like we'd want to look at your whole thing. Like, are you good at your job or not? In sports, it's like, well, you got a best of three. You better play well. Like there is some bad taste on Max Fried's season now. He's probably going to finish fourth or fifth for the Cy Young. Like this is just, it's not fair, but it's sports fair, right? Like when you're the backup quarterback, you might not get a ton of chances. This is your drive, man. You got to perform, and sports is different from life. So I understand the passion of fans and how they look at it, but it is hard to win
yeah.
and get through these multiple rounds. But there is something that is, for me, undefinable that the Yankees lack. Is it a mental group thing? Is it a stylistic thing? Is it a couple of things? Because to me, the commonality is not them as much as what they lose to every October, which is a better baseball team that stands up to them.
Do you feel like the other teams that they're losing to, because this to me felt very 2018-ish, like the Red Sox when they lost in the ALDS. Like the Red Sox were clearly the better team that year, and they dominated them in the playoffs, just like the Toronto Blue Jays did this year. Do you get a sense that organizationally for the opposing team, they just seem more in tune with what they're doing in their plan of attack, where we know we have approach at the plate. Like we're going to waste a bunch of pitches on this guy. We're going to make this pitcher work, and we're going to get him out of the game early. Or we're going to, our team approach in the bullpen, we're going to find that lefty lane, and we're going to attack it as quickly as possible. Like it feels like sometimes with the Yankees, and maybe I'm wrong here, Joel, and you can tell me I'm wrong. It feels like they have their plan, and they're sticking to it no matter what. And the feel that you've highlighted so many times over the years with this group, it feels like they're lacking that still, and it happened again in this Blue Jays series where there felt like there was missed opportunities because we're so stuck in our ways.
Yeah, Ryan, I feel that way writ large, like about the product the last couple of years, but I didn't feel that way about this series.
Okay.
I felt like the Blue Jays outplayed them,
Yeah.
and like that makes the decisions look better. Right? Like you could just as easily bring in Mason Fluharty and you can hang a breaking ball to Ben Rice, and you know what I mean? It's like they outplayed him, and stylistically, and again, this is about the reckoning. And you tell me when you want me to go.
I'm ready to go when you are, because it feels like the Blue Jays series, they just were beat and they were never going to win this series pretty much.
Part of the reason they were beat, and so this will highlight two things I'm thinking a lot about with the Yankees moving forward. It feels to me like the Yankees need to re-sign Cody Bellinger.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons they need to re-sign Cody Bellinger is he kind of, like, if you believe the paradigm of the game is shifting towards like guys who can defy strikeouts, have batting average, be good on defense, good on the base, etc. Like you can't run away from Cody Bellinger. That is Cody Bellinger. He struck out a career low percentage this year. I think it was about 13.7%. While still hitting 280, while still hitting 29 homers, while still running the bases well, while still defending across the outfield and at first base well, while still hitting left on left as well as almost anyone in the history of the Yankees, right? And hitting in the clutch, almost 1,000 OPS with runners in scoring position. I know he's going to cost money. It's a real investment. I would keep in mind that after 26, LeMahieu comes off the books. After 27, Stanton comes off the books. After 28, Cole and Rodon come off the books. And so the Yankees are rolling towards some more evergreen finances. And I think they have to find a way to keep this player, because this player was a Blue Jay who played on their team, which was a guy who could do a little, not a little, a lot of everything. And I feel that's that. The other reckoning is an internal one. And it's funny, Ryan, because so much so many of our preseason spring training shows were me saying, what do the Yankees have to do, young players have to do for them to be good? And I don't know that any of them, except for maybe Ben Rice, met some of the stuff that I was talking about. But to me, this offseason, the Yankees have to be as hard ass as possible. If you're talking about a cultural thing and say, Ben Rice, whatever number of hours a day you put into baseball, whatever number it is for hitting, some of it has to be, as much has to be about first base work. You're probably going to be our first baseman next year. You cannot miss scoops by a foot and a half. You've got to get major league average at this. And Ben Rice, to your credit, who's a 12, 13 round draft choice, and a guy who no one thought would catch, and like, why did the Yankees draft him? Like this is a worker. Now you got to put in the work at first base because it's the obvious place for you to play and become major league average. I think Jason Dominguez wants to and is being pushed to play winter ball in the Dominican this year. Go play. Lots of innings in left, lots of innings in center. Of course, as of today, with Bellinger and Grisham free agents, there's no obvious center fielder. Jason Dominguez is a very good athlete. I thought he handled and everyone around the Yankees thought he handled his benching professionally. He kept going out. I thought it was very interesting. He shadowed Ahmad Rosario a lot, who's a very enthusiastic, serious player. Late in this year, when Rosario would go out on the field early, Dominguez would go out on the field early. Dominguez would do infield drills with Rosario to work on, I asked the Yankees outfield coach, Luis Rojas, to work on, Rosario told him, it will help you in the outfield to kind of play that ball cleanly because it's coming quicker at you now. And so I gave him credit. He didn't sit in the room. He was out there working. So he needs to go play winter ball and get lots of reps in the outfield and get to major league average. And, is major league, because again, he's going to get a runway. If he doesn't get traded this offseason, he'll get the runway to prove, can you be a 2020 guy who's at least major league average in the outfield? That's an asset, like in today's game, because he's another guy who I think would limit strikeouts if he were in the order. He's got a good hitting guy. So that is defense. On offense, Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells. Let's start with Wells because that's the one that's not quite the brush fire that the Volpe one is. Austin Wells' profile coming into the sport, into the majors, was as an offense-first catcher. It turns out he's a very, very good catcher. His offense has come down. I had more belief when he had a terrible postseason last year that he was tired, and that explained it first full year of why the offense was down. I am a less a believer today about it, but he needs to be able to get to where his offensive profile isn't just homers and strikeouts.
Yeah.
He was a good hitting prospect. It's funny, we used to say the same thing about Gary Sanchez. He was a good hitting prospect with power. Austin Wells was a good hitting prospect with power. He needs to find a swing that produces good hitting with the appreciation that good, tough hitting is going to play better in October, and that his home stadium is going to bring the homers anyway, and that he's a smart kid who will learn to pick counts to try to pull and use his power. And that brings us to Volpe.
Oh, boy.
Who could not have finished this worse and opened up all the doors again. There needs to be a coming to the heavens moment with Anthony Volpe and the Yankees. One of which is, it's 2023 again, and you got to come prove you're the shortstop. Like, tell them today, we love you. You have the cleanest road to shortstop. But we are perfectly comfortable playing Jose Caballero a lot. And if Oswaldo Cabrera comes back and gets healthy, playing him against some righty pitching, playing him out there, and you have options. We'll send you to the minor leagues. This is philosophically where I don't agree with the cookie cutter pull it in the air thing. That is where the most batting average is and the most runs. I get it. But not everyone should do it. And Anthony Volpe striking out in the high 20% in the playoffs, much more than that, should now be deemed unacceptable. It's removing one of the elements of his game, which is his legs. He must return to the guy he was as an amateur and even early in the minor leagues, which is a whole field hitter, where the major league batting average this year was 245. Anthony Volpe hit 250. Hit 250 because he got to 19 homers. He would be a better hitter at 12 with some more pop, with more batting average, with more threat on the bases, with fewer strikeouts, with the ability to move a runner. He is 5 foot whatever. Maybe Dustin Pedroia historically and Jose Altuve historically could be that size and be pull oriented and make it work. One had the Crawford boxes, the other had the Green Monster. Volpe has neither. He has a short right field porch, which he can get to. And to me, they have the addiction to him has to go away. And the tough talk of what we want you to be and what you need to be is a pest, more of a pest, more of a pest. You need some more Ernie Clement in your game. You need to be a tough out with 2 strikes. It can't be surrender. He is a automatic out at 2 strikes. He must not be that. He is not a good enough player otherwise to justify that offensive profile. It is unacceptable. And maybe at some point next year they get George Lombard. That feels more 2027 to me. But shortstop's very hard to find. I don't think you'll do it easily in the marketplace. It's why I'm saying internally, Caballero, Cabrera, maybe. You know, Oswaldo Cabrera was part of the Yankee postseason. He was on the field every day, moving around great after that terrible traumatic leg injury. That combination has to be better than what Volpe gave in total this year, which was unacceptable because when it's bad, it's not bad, it's unplayable.
Yeah.
And he must reach a point where he is a valuable player every day because he is consistent on defense and at minimum, a pest on offense. I don't understand trying to hit 20 homers to be that bad an overall offensive player. He'd be better off, I said 12, he'd be better off with 8, but a better offensive player. He is not a threat in these situations. And I just think it's 3 years of it. He's still a relatively young player. He still generally has a profile that looks something like the first 3 years of Dansby Swanson's career, who went on to have a very good career. So there is a U-turn here for him. But to me, Wells and Volpe on offense and Dominguez and Rice on defense is a moment where the organization isn't a, hey, let's everybody sit and have a party and let's have Danish with the coffee. Those 4 players, since Hal Steinbrenner isn't going to have Steve Cohn's payroll, he's going to have a nice big payroll, but it's not going to be unlimited. So the Yankees need their young players to continue to grow and be better. And to me, this is the tough love moment. This moment to have the exit interviews with your players and tell them, we're going to be monitoring it all off season. We're going to send, wherever Ben Rice is spending the off season, we're going to show up once every few weeks. How you doing on defense? Luis Rojas was long time involved with the team that I think Dominguez might play with down there. Luis Rojas needs to empower him. Be on this guy down there. He's got to play lots and lots of innings in the outfield. And Wells and Volpe, you got to decide, This is not the offensive profile that was drafted. This was not the offensive profile that was projected for these two players. And when you talk about the long lineup that the Blue Jays had, if Wells and Volpe are the players they were projected to be, the Yankee lineup would be longer. The Yankees could, I'm not saying don't hit homers, because homers are the most valuable thing you could do on offense. But the Yankees had 30 more than the Dodgers, who were the runner-up. You could hit a few less and still be a homer hitting team.
Mm-hmm.
To be a better offensive team for these games that matter, we're looking for the commonality. The commonality is their lineup gets easy to pitch to at this time of year. You must determine now, as you're eliminated, that you will not be seduced into chasing every long fly ball. You're the Yankees. You're going to have a lot of power hitters in your lineup. You will hit a lot of homers. You must sacrifice some of it for guys whose profiles are being destroyed by going for it. That has to change, and the tough love starts exit, interview, forward, and who shows up in spring training and who sticks with it all year. And the clock on Anthony Volpe should be 2023 again, man. You better come. You beat out Peraza in 2023. You better become prepared to win this job.
It was a great, that's a lot. First off, I would say, I think Austin Wells does a really nice job defensively, like you said. I'm very aggravated when you're swinging first pitch last night in a situation, and I just hope he has the cerebral part of the game that you had talked about so much with him in his profile as well, offensively, where, hey, have an approach, work batters, work that, like, have that be a part of your game. Don't just be, like you said, a home run hitter. And then with Volpe, you know how I feel about him. I don't think he's an MLB player. I don't see it. Haven't seen it. I think it is what it is.
I
at this
wonder
point.
if he's a second baseman.
I don't even want him at second base, Joel, because I don't think
this player, because offense has to be part of who he is. I just think if he doesn't rework this swing, where if you could get the ball to the outer edge, he has no shot. Like I've seen enough little spurts of him using right field, and then he goes right back to that other thing where he's big. And I'm sure part of that is who knows who whispers into his ear, how many people that is. But overall, as a philosophy of the sport and a philosophy of the Yankees, the philosophy is get your pitch, don't miss it, put it in the air to the pull side. That is their philosophy. I think it is a terrific casino baseball philosophy over 162 games, because a lot of those games are Tuesday night against the White Sox in June. But year after year, when you don't have a long lineup and you're going strikeout, 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 and they're not competitive and there's easy innings, I would reconsider what is the exchange. This is so easy to misinterpret. You must hit home runs. You must.
But you have that in Stanton and Judge already.
It's good to get it throughout your lineup, whatever. But they hit 30 more than anybody.
Yeah, but
so in other words, if they hit 50 less homers and finish fourth in the major leagues in homers with 220, and the exchange was they were a better, tougher, peskier offensive team that profile to don't just play casino baseball, which works all year, to take your ace swing in every situation, because if you do that enough, you'll hit enough 3-run homers over the course of 162 games to win 90, blah, blah, blah. We do this every year. You will do it. The Yankees are incredibly talented. If I had a bet, I'll bet over 89.5 that they get to 90 next year. Let's go. Because that philosophy will do it. But if you're wondering why I think they keep running into the wall and falling down, this is as much core tenet to it as anything. And it's a tough thing to pull away from because you know that job one more than anything else is to make sure you get in. Look what happened to the Mets this year. Like where you feel with some level of arrogance all year, well, we're going to get in and then we'll do our thing. So the Yankees know this philosophy will get them in. I think at this point, there should be some appreciation from the people in charge that it might get you in, but it's hard to win a lot of rounds unless you're going to get a cakewalk like the below 500 against everyone who's not the White Sox, Royals, and the can't hit it all Guardians. Like you get that kind of cakewalk. The Yankees would have gotten that cakewalk. Like you'll get through. But when the other team shows up with a pitching plan, you crumble
Yeah.
because I think you don't have enough places in the lineup to make it tough over and over. You do in June because then there's a lot of bad pitching. And when you're the eighth guy in your lineup has 20 homers, you go, whoa, look at us. We got 20 homers out of that. Again, Anthony Volpe would be better with 10 homers and a 265 batting average and a 20% strikeout rate, where you felt like you have to make a pitch. A good pitcher has to make a pitch to get him out. It is too easy. It is too easy too often against Austin Wells. And that is not the first round picks that were made on them were about offense first. And the players they are not that. And I appreciate how hard it is to catch in the major leagues now, to play shortstop in the major leagues now. The Yankees need more from those players as good offensive players and not just an attempt to freak show the ball out of the ballpark.
Well said. I think there's two things there, like you highlighted. The approach, right? What's your approach to the plate? Can you be a better pesky guy that can put together a quality at bat? That has been lacking, not just from those guys, but overall as a team. It feels like they swing early and often in these counts, and it was driving me crazy. And I know they had good pitches to swing at, but they would miss a lot of those pitches, so it was tough to watch. And that's why you say those easy innings were compiling on this Yankees team in the playoffs. The other thing, Joel, is that when they do play these better teams that are better at baseball and they know to be pesky at the plate and they know to have a pitching plan and they just look like a more gelled team, it feels like, or the vibe is better on the opposing dugout compared to the Yankees in these series in the playoffs. I just wonder if philosophically, like you said, can they actually make that change as an organization to say, we don't need to hit home runs all the time. We don't need to be focused on that part of the game. Like, we need to be a better team all around.
I think they won't.
Yeah.
I'll say this is, I think they'll continue to attempt to be a better all-around team. I think they've saw the value of better defense in the second half this year, especially after August 1st. I think that they saw the value of being threats on the bases, but they will not cash that chip to have Ernie Clement on their roster.
Yeah.
Like I think that when you're a hammer, you see a nail. When you're the Yankee front office, you see the ball going over the fence as the philosophy for how you win. And I think those guys, and I do think it is job one with a bullet. Like, I think it's the most important thing is you got to get in. And I think that what they're most comfortable with is a 162 game philosophy, which is Tom Verducci of Sports Illustrated, who I work with at MLB Network, wrote a piece that was really, I've attempted to write on this a bunch and talk about it. And I thought it was the best thing done on it, where he kind of broke down like what their record is when they hit 2 homers in a game, what their record is when they hit 1, and just it's like counting cards. They're trying to play as many games as possible where they hit 2 homers, because if they hit 2 homers, they win 86% of the time. Right? And if you just think of it, if you remove the humanity from it, which I'm sure that wing of the party does, and just think of it as we have to get in, the surest way to get in is hit at least 2 homers in a game. I don't see them going away from that philosophy, because they would also say if we hit 2 homers in a postseason game, we'll win. Right? The Yankees hit 2 homers in game 3, they won. They didn't hit 2 homers in any other game. They lost the 3 games. I guess you could say that's true, but what it does to you is it leaves you like, I brought my gun.
Hmm.
Okay, we're taking away your gun. Do you have a knife on you? I do not.
Yeah, I
Do you
do
have
not.
brass? Do you have brass knuckles? I do
I
not.
don't have a
Do you
plan.
have like that's the problem
Plan B and Plan C are not here.
is the pitching is going to be good enough that there has to be a frustrate them. Like Yankee pitching was getting frustrated with the what the Blue Jays were doing. Like they used to get frustrated by what the Astros did. And I'm not just talking about sign stealing
No.
2017. The Astros were always a good team at defying strikeouts and making Yankee pitchers work. And at some point, the Yankees are like do jealousy pretty well, where they look like the whole Yankee history changes because Brian Cashman saw what Theo Epstein did with the Red Sox and said, if we don't do that, we're going to be so far behind. And by the way, convinced George Steinbrenner to do it, and it was the right thing to do. The Yankees were way behind in understanding like the stuff, the modern stuff that you could do to like find players and improve performance and stuff like that. There is a finer detail here. It feels to me like I know that it's a punch on the Yankees all the time. I think in general the Yankees front office does a very good job. It's very hard to actually win 94 games every year and make good decisions and whatever. But I think they have a giant blind spot about the actual feel nuance play of the game where it's like I think they would say that's all bullshit and that if you don't hit homers, you're not going to finesse your way to wins. And they would say the Blue Jays won games 1 and 2 because they hit 8 homers and we hit one. So we needed to hit more homers. Right? I'm telling you what I think they would say. Right? And I don't think that you and I would talk them out of that. And so when you ask me, do I think that they'll change? I don't think so. And part of the problem is, again, I'm working on a piece right now about like what I would do this offseason.
Yeah.
And so, it's not hard to do the research. You could start with like who does it, who has like a low strikeout percentage. Of those guys, who has a low strikeout percentage and is also a good defensive player. You'll be surprised how many of them are Blue Jays, by the way, are also good defensive players. How many of them are both of those and are even major league average hitters? Do any of them, so like all of those, like a guy who fits into that category is Bryson Stott of the Phillies. He's doesn't strike out a lot. He's a terrific defensive player. He's at least major league average on offense. He is one of the worst postseason players you can imagine. Like the Phillies find it hard to play him, and it's not a few games anymore. The Phillies are in the playoffs every year. He's up to like 35, 40 games. I love Bryson Stott as a player. I would try, but like sometimes you could literally get, like if you and I were sitting today and saying the Yankees should trade Jazz Chisholm and get some stuff for him before he leaves in free agency, because also there's other things we might not love about Jazz. And let's like then pivot around and get Bryson Stott. And I think you and I on the day of that trade would say that's the perfect kind of player for them. And then if he played anything like he's played for the Phillies in the postseason, you guys would all pull your hair out and say, how do you trade for this guy? And he's like the perfect, like he is the Ernie Clement profile.
Right.
Terrific on defense, good base runner, puts the ball in play, major league average offense for a regular season. And and like Ryan, this is why I'm saying it's hard to win a championship. It's hard to put this all together because on a piece of paper, some things make a lot of sense, and then it doesn't fully translate or it doesn't translate right away. I'm sitting here with an evergreen thing. I'm not actually the Yankee general manager. And even playing the 31st general manager and the Yankee GM and trying to come up with, here's what I would do this offseason. It's hard to turn the Titanic this way and get more of those players. They're not easy to find where you could live with them defensively, all that stuff. And that kind of stuff. And it's just that it's not easy to find those players, which is why I go back to you got to fix some of yours,
Right. It's the
especially the ones who had a profile that should fit into this. Like Anthony Volpe should be some version of this if he was the guy the Yankees project him to be. Now, after 400 plus games, we might say that ain't happening.
it's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
Right? But Your job as an organization is to make players better.
Correct.
10% better Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe. 10%. Not like, hey, he needs to hit 315 and whatever. 10%. Bring down your strikeout percentage a few points. Get to league average, 245, 250 hitting. With 2 strikes, look at what Bellinger does. The fact that you're still trying to hit a home run at 2 strikes, that's freaking ridiculous. You hit 19 homers this year.
I don't know if
It's not worth
he
look, he might not.
I think
Ryan,
I've seen enough.
if there's any moment to have doubts about the player, it's at the end of this season. It's now been 3 full years. Conversely, the Yankees love the player, the makeup, and they're not running away from him. And it's not an easy position to find.
I know.
And even if you're a big fan of George Lombard, he's not ready yet.
I wouldn't call him up. No.
So you're stopgapping. And if you're stopgapping, I actually think I would agree with this also. If I'm stopgapping, I'm picking door A. I either get Anthony, you either show up on February whatever, ready to play this way. And if you don't win your job, I'll live with Caballero and Cabrera.
Right.
And whatever quadruple A guy, whatever Nicky Lopez to be named later or whatever, I sign, whom I hope has a good, I hope my major league scouts went out and really watched triple A. And there's some quadruple A guy out there who we feel like could field the position and not humiliate himself if we had to call him up and play him. There is no way off of these 3 years that Anthony Volpe, A, has a gilded path to shortstop next year if I run the team, and B, isn't under some threat. I haven't even used my options on this guy yet, right? He just made the team. I got options, dude. I could open up a lot of stuff. I could have 3 shortstops on the team instead of you if I want to use the options, right?
Certainly feels like it.
So to me, I really think some tough love is needed here. But the question is, does this front office even believe in that tough love should be delivered, or that Anthony Volpe should continue to swing as if he's Dustin Pedroia when he spent 3 years proving he is not?
We've seen what the history of player development is with this team, Joel. It's not been pretty with young players besides Aaron Judge. I'll give him credit for Ben Rice offensively. Been great. But it's been a lot of regression from these guys who have that instant pop, and then we talked about it, they just get worse over time. And they wilter away. It's crazy to me when I was listing them out before with my buddies here, and we're talking Yanks. We're like, man, some of these guys aren't in Major League Baseball anymore. These guys, the players that the Yankees were once highly touted prospects that came up and made this grandiose appearance, and then they just falter and wilter away to not even Major League players anymore.
Yeah. I bet you that's true with a lot of organizations, though.
I know, but it's right. Like, so what's funny is like I'm trying to give it a little bit of the yin yang. You're saying, Ryan, it's really hard to find a shortstop and a position player that's out there in the free agent market. Go look finding them at the store or whatever. It's right. It's like, okay, but now it's about how do you do it internally to supplement your team, because you do have to have that part of your team when you run it. This franchise has been desperate, I think, to develop actual good starting position players. And right now, you just listed out 4 premium guys here who all have ginormous question marks heading into the next season, which makes this even more of a troubling offseason for the Yankees and how they're going to navigate it.
Yeah. And, with the puzzle of, I would expect, if anything, the payroll will come down instead of go up. Yeah, I look, it's probably we're not going to stop doing this, I assume. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about, what they're positioned to do this offseason and what they're not positioned to do. I do think that it will get lost. You heard what my criticism is. In general, this is a front office that does well at putting together a team that gets to 90+ wins. I assume they'll get to work and do something that looks a lot like that. We forget at this time of year, like the Blue Jays hadn't won a playoff game since 2016. When they finally do it, it's like, oh, they know what they're doing and the Yankees don't. The Red Sox finish last a lot. When they get it, it's like they know what they're doing, the Yankees don't. When the Orioles made the playoffs 2 years in a row, oh, they're the giant ready to happen in the division and the Yankees aren't. And it's like the Yankees are the constant. They know how to get there. Do they have a giant blind spot about when they get in the red zone and what it takes to, it's like watching the football giants. They could get to about the 12-yard line. Good luck from there,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And uh, obviously, the Yankees are a lot better than the football giants have been. But just the idea of like the Yankees have clearly shown they know how to get there.
Correct.
And I would not dismiss that in a
Never.
year where we just watch what happens to the
It
Mets.
was a mirror. It was an incredible pivot in the offseason from the Juan Soto Yankees.
And it was a very good pivot in July from what was
Correct.
a very bad June and July. And like Ryan, if you would have told me I ever said it was a tremendous trade to trade for somebody with an 80 OPS plus and a 33% strikeout rate, that would have seemed crazy to me. And I actually think Ryan McMahon's a really good baseball
He's a
player.
hell of a
I
baseball
really
player,
do.
man.
And by the way, in the postseason, he hit
Yeah.
and he didn't strike out. And it does make me, I think the comparison I used with you, and I might have used it in my column the day they got it, is there a Scott Brocious kind of thing in there? Because he's been around losing so much, but in a place where he was expected to help stop the losing, and he's a co-star, a supporting guy. Like he's a guy who comes in and he's good in every movie, but he can't carry your movie. But you're glad he's in the scene. If you're in the right movie, God, it's great to have him. Like Brocious. Like once Brocious didn't have to be a weight carrier because that was Jeter and Bernie and O'Neill and Martinez. It allowed him to flourish. The offensive player I watched, again, it's 10 days. Who knows? But like even a left on left home run for Ryan McMahon in the postseason, like Ryan McMahon playing in New York in front of me was a much better player than I thought when I kept seeing him come to Citi Field. And I was like, he's okay on defense, but he strikes out a lot. Why is this guy hitting third for a team? It's like, but what if he's hitting seventh and playing defense and hitting 20 homers
Yeah.
and on a team like this figures out he could shorten up his swing and get down to, say, 24% strikeout. Like, is any of that possible for him? He's 30 already. I would bet against it. And still, on defense, baseball IQ, and popping it out of the ballpark alone, he's worth that trade.
Look,
Because he was so good on defense, and he clearly, like you talk about guys who like I landed in heaven. I was on the Rockies, and and that doesn't always work, right? Jake Bird was on the Rockies and came to the Yankees, and we're gonna have to put out an APB to see if we can find him. So it doesn't always work. So when a guy like Bednar is able to handle it from Pittsburgh, or Clay Holmes from Pittsburgh, or Scott Brocious from Oakland, or Ryan McMahon from Colorado, that's not always happened, right? Like I suggested the other day, the Cardinals want to trade Sonny Gray. I said, what about like to the Phillies? They could, they're about to lose Ranger Suarez to free agency. And somebody said, you really want to put Sonny Gray in a big market again? And I was like, right. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that doesn't always happen. The McMahon trade was really good. The Bednar trade was really good.
Duvall looked good in the postseason as well. Like I think he had his moments.
Like I should start to think about the next bullpen where Duvall will be an important part of it, and Fernando Cruz. Fernando Cruz for Jose Trevino. Like the front office is a good front office.
That's why I'm saying the pivot was awesome.
What we're wondering is there this thing when there's a jump ball in the organization? Does it always go to one wing of the party? And that one wing is always going to see it as casino baseball. And is that the deadly flaw with the team that will make me and you do this same show over and over and over again in October?
Yeah, and look, I do want to touch real quick on what you had said before about, look, Ryan, like it takes a lot to get the postseason, a lot of credit there, but you also hit on something there about the Blue Jays. They just figured it out. The Red Sox finishing last, but then they make a World Series run. But every time the Yankees lose in the postseason, it's to those Blue Jays. It's to those Red Sox. It's to those Astros, which makes me question. I understand that they struggle and they barely get in the playoffs sometimes, or they finish last. But some reason they get in the postseason and the Yankees just falter to these teams. And you're like, what's going on? Like, why? Where is that missing piece, that element where they can't get over the hump on those teams that are non-AL Central teams in the playoffs of recent?
Yeah, I do think some of it is that it's very random and very hard. But having said that, at some point you got to cash your chip. There's fair and there's sports fair, right? In sports fair, at some point, Aaron Boone's team's got to be able to beat these teams and win in the postseason. It didn't happen again this year. And I'm sure that there's not a singular reason for this. But forgive the repetitiveness. If you said, Joel, to speak in the third person, Joel, what do you think is the biggest reason? I think the Yankees' offensive profile is easier to pitch to at this time of year. What works from April through September, I think they need to temper it somewhat, not give it away. Like, not give it away. Got to hit 200 plus homers if you're the Yankees and playing in that stadium.
And I think
You got to be
naturally they won't give it up because you're going to have Stanton, Judge. You're going to have those
right.
guys in your
But
lineup
you
next
want
year.
the you. I think you also like the idea of the threat up and down the lineup as much as possible, right? But you can relinquish some of it to be a better, tougher
Mm,
out.
yeah.
And I think if the Yankees had me in front of them to try to appeal to the factions, it's the point I would try to make. And again, I always think I'm fallible. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I watch them, as you know, pretty intently and for many years. And if they had me in front of them, I would say, guys, let's not just throw away 30 homers or 40 homers or 50 homers, but if that's the cost of, like, let's self scout ourselves. Let's put our scouts on us and ask our scouts this question: are we an easy lineup to pitch to with good pitching in October? And if the answer to that question is, I'm sorry to say yes, and I think that answer would be yes, then we should not just be a team that says, hey, I get it, but all it takes is 2 homers, and if we hit 2 homers, we'll win the playoff game too. I'm like, you're taking away the only weapon, and I don't even have the knife. I don't even have the brass knuckles. I have nothing. And I'm defenseless or offenseless to fight back. And I think that these Yankees need to kind of like, it's why I think Bellinger is such an important re-sign. And then everything they do moving forward, whether it's improving their own or adding to the offensive profiled group, has to include, is this guy a really, really tough out? Like, how many tough outs? But because again, as you're pitching, there's nobody more thoughtful about pitching. Like Garrett Cole and Max Fried are probably like as PhD thoughtful on pitching as possible. Put them in a room.
Yeah.
Say, who do you not want to pitch to in big spots in the postseason? And see if you can go get some of them guys.
Final thoughts, Joel Sherman. I asked you this on the last episode, and you said, Ryan, wait till this series is over, and I'm going to ask you now. Is this an ultimate failure for the Yankees this season?
Yeah, because again, big picture, at some point you got to cash in the chip. And because Judge will be 34, Cole 35, Stanton 36 when you kind of do this all over again, uh, because it's another easy opening up of the Boone Cashman thing, and it hasn't gone stale. And should they change, um, you want to try to shut off the noise on that at some at some point. There's a randomness, but you have to win the randomness game at some point. And again, I don't think it's all random because I think that the offensive profile is part of this. And I think that they did have a team that was hot and playing well rounded going in, and that the American League, their road was tougher, but there was no reason why they couldn't win the road.
Totally.
And the fact that they couldn't, and it really was like a close, not close series. It wasn't like, again, I walk away from this and I'm not like, if just this one thing, it wasn't one thing. I don't think it was managing. The Blue Jays outplayed them for 4 games. They outplayed them all season, especially in their ballpark, which is why those games, first 2 games were in Rogers Center. And I would find that very hard to swallow if I were the Yankees. I'll say this is, if I woke up on, I think the baseball season ended on September 28th, I think this year, the regular season. If I woke up on September 29th and I were the Mets, I couldn't live with myself that I didn't get in. If I woke up this morning as the Yankees, I couldn't live with myself that we couldn't figure out a way to keep going, because I don't think there's a super team in the league And the best version of the Yankees, which did not show up in this series, some large agree because Max Fried was bad, but didn't show up in this series. It would be hard for me to wake up this morning and kind of like get through the day if I were the Yankees, because there was a road open to them to get back to the series, and a road where if it's, hey, you beat the Red Sox, hey, you beat the Blue Jays, hey, you beat the Pickett, the best version of
Mariners or
the ALDS,
Tigers, yeah,
going
whoever it is. Yeah.
while and the Tigers or the Mariners. End of discussion that you can't beat those kind of teams. Gone. Now we'll see if you can beat the Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, who's ever getting there. But like so much would have gone away.
Yep.
And instead, it's all an open wound again that we're talking about. I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more during the off season. But yeah, I think an ultimate. I thought they were a good. The lead I had on my column was they were again good enough to be very good, but not good enough to be great.
Joel Sherman.
And that's how I feel about them. Again,
look, it's going to be diagnosed for the next couple of weeks, and then it's going to be, before we know it, GM winter meetings. We're going to be talking about the offseason. We're going to be talking about how this Yankees team is going to try to pivot and figure out the next approach for next year. Joel, I know today wasn't easy. I know, appreciate you coming on here always, doing the therapy session with us. We're looking forward to this column. We're looking forward to all your pieces throughout the rest of this offseason, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you a bunch here as we go through it. But as always, man, I appreciate you for doing season number 2 here on Pinstripe Post. Another successful year. We appreciate the fans coming out and watching us and commenting, and the growth on this channel and what we've been putting on with this thing. It's been awesome to see all of you watch the show and be a part of this. And we're just going to continue to keep grinding and giving you Yankees content like this. And I know Joel really appreciates all you fans for watching as well.
Yep. Echo everything Ryan said, and back to Ryan for doing the show with him.
Joel, we'll catch you next time, buddy. Get some rest, and we'll see you, bud.
All right. Be well, Ryan.